In this video, we're going to look at more complex ways to make surfaces and curves from surfaces. So there's a way of doing this, which is a surface and curve network command, and we're going to look at that. So I'm putting together a lot of things you've already learned in the previous videos. So we're going to start with using construction lines. I'm just creating two simple lines on the X and the Y axis, and I'm going to align them with the, I've got grid snap turned on, so I should be snapping to those lines. You don't have to do that. I'm just doing it because it's sort of cleaner and neater. And I'm holding down Shift. Okay, so this is a technique we're going to be using quite a bit, construction lines, because the construction lines give you something to snap to. And then if we're mirroring our image, or our shape, or line shape, we know that the endpoints of the lines are going to connect exactly at the same point, and then we can make closed surfaces out of that. So I'm going to use the control point curves, and I'm just going to use, something simple as a demo. So don't think that this is, serious design or good design or anything like that. I'm just really demoing the technique here. Now, one of the things, if I want to end up with a 3D print, one of the things you want to do when you're mirroring is hold down the Shift key and make sure that your first line will be perpendicular. Okay, so that blue line is my construction line, and I'm going to use the O snaps now. And the O snaps are tricky because you have to remember to turn them off, but I'm going to use the near for this one. And near is very tricky, so you just have to remember to turn it off after you use it. So now I know that I'm on the construction line, and I hold down Shift and click again. And what that does is my first line is going to be 90 degrees to that construction line, so that when I mirror it, I'm going to end up with something that's going to be, there's not going to be a sharp edge or anything in the geometry. It's going to be really smooth. Okay. Actually, I'm going to try that again. Okay. Yeah, I can get the feedback from the O-snap that it's near, and I'm clicking Shift, and I'm clicking again. So now my curve is coming down this way, and I'm just drawing it really quick, freehand. There's nothing special about it. And I'm going to click here and do the same thing. I'm going to add Shift, and then it's giving me feedback that I'm near. Okay, so that's good. I like that. So there's my first line I'm going to draw, and now I'm going to mirror it with our, remember the mirror tool, everybody's learned how to use that. So if I click on it, here's where I'm using my construction lines, because it's saying what is the start of the mirror plane. Okay, and then what is the end of the mirror plane. So it's snapping to that construction line, and then I get what I want, which is a symmetrical closed shape where the endpoints of each of these two lines touch, so that there's not going to be any holes. Because the next tools we're going to work with, if those lines don't touch perfectly, then it can be a real problem. The tools won't work well. So let's zoom in here and have a look. And the first thing I'm going to do is if I go to the next view, the perspective view, the next line I'm going to make is going to go up on the Z-axis. Okay. So now we're getting into lines in 3 dimensions, and that becomes a bit complex, but this is how we're going to do it. So I'm going to select that one, and I'm just going to copy and paste it. So now I've got 2 of those lines. So when I go here to select, I've got 2 curves that are exactly the same. I'm going to pick that one, and then I'm going to use the 2D rotate tool here. I'm going to go down to the front view, click there, click the end of the line, and then holding down the Shift key, I'm going to go 90 degrees. And then here's what I get. I get this line coming up here, and then the next thing we're going to do is make cross sections. So if I want to edit this line before we make the cross sections, it's really simple. I just have to turn on control points. Okay, so Window F10, turn on the control points, grab a control point and edit, and then I'm gonna just like, it allows you to sort of fine tune the geometry you're making. And again, I'm just sort of running through this. I'm not really designing anything nice. I'm just sort of playing around with it so that you learn the techniques. Okay, so if I go with that, that curve is different than the ones on the side, but the whole form is still symmetrical. It's all good. And I'm going to turn off the control points, F11. And here's what we've got. Oh, look what happened. We made a big boo-boo. Okay, I just cheated. I fixed up that that wonky line, and those wonky lines, when you start to make lines in different dimensions, you just have to watch out that it's always usually the case that you want to edit the control points in 2D. But anyway, I deleted it. I went through the steps again, and I made sure that it was straight in that dimension. Okay. So one of the, however you do this, you have to make sure that all of the three lines are actually touching. And what I mean is that that line, and that line are all touching at the same point. And if that's not the case, then you have to go back to the previous step and redo it. Okay, so there's one, like those three lines are touching. So you have to use the O-snaps correctly so that that happens. If not, then the next tools won't work effectively. Next thing we're going to do is make cross sections of this three-dimensional. It's almost like a drawing made out of wires and space, and we're going to make cross section. Two curves are going to be cross sectioning. So the tool that we're going to use is Curve from Cross Section Profiles. Go to Curve Tools. You can see that there's this icon there, and when you roll over it, it says Curve from Cross Section Profiles. That's what we're using. Okay, I'm going to click on that, and it's saying select profile curves in order. So here's another thing about a lot of these curve network tools. You have to go in order. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, and then hit enter. All right, that sequence is really important. And the command line with these complicated tools starts to tell you what the sequence is, and you'll have to practice it a whole bunch of times before you get it to work. I'm cheating in the demo I'm doing because I pause and go back and fix things, but that's like smoke and mirrors. I get to do that because I'm recording, but it'll take more practice. Okay. So start of cross section lines. And now at this point, I've got to be careful that I can't do this in the perspective mode. I have to go to the right side, and I'm going to say, oh, I'm going to make a cross section there. I'm holding down the shift key, and then I'm going to make another one here. Hold down the shift key so that it's straight. And I like that. So now here I've got two cross-section lines, and the next thing we're going to do is try and turn the entire line network into a surface, and hopefully it's going to work the first time. It's a tricky one because if any of these lines don't touch perfectly, then it won't work. It's very finicky. All right, so if we go to Surface Tools, the icon we're going to be working with is this one. It's called Surface from Tool Network. Sorry, Surface from Network of Curves. All right, and click on that. Select curves in the network. Now again, you probably have to try this a few times, but I'm going to go in the same sequence I went before. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Press enter when done. All right, and you should see something like that. This is a good indication that it's probably going to work. And I'm not gonna get into any of the options here. Let's just say okay, and let's see what happens. And it worked. Wow, I didn't even have to cheat. It just worked. So here's what you get: some very complex surfaces, and it's like minimum amount of control points. It's relatively low polygon, and I mean that's a really powerful tool, and that's why we're using Rhino. It does things like that.